Hello, everybody. We are coming to you guys live from the FTC Soundstream studio. Excuse me. Shout out to Professor Andre. Shout out to Professor Jody for putting on an amazing product and equipment for us, all the students. This is Through the Tunnel. This is where people tell their truth, not the highlight reel, the story. The story about where they came from and what they went through and what kind of obstacles that they had to face and overcome, that pressure that nobody sees. I am Aaron Jones, and let's begin this tunnel with one of the dopest people that I work with. Literally, like, when I tell you he is a beast, DJ, MC, the whole nine, every role you could think of for Barattini Productions, J Remi, I'm telling you guys, I pat him on the back every time when he switches a song and blends it. I'm like, yo, I didn't even think of doing that. Like, I look back, I'm like, yo, this is ill. This is official. Every wedding, like, when I work with him, I got that look. I'm like, whoa, that's different. But how you doing, man?
Thank you, man. Thank you. I'm a pleasure to have me, man. Thank you so much for inviting me on. I'm excited, man. I appreciate that very much, man. Aside from, us working and DJing, it's been a great journey, and I'm happy that, you recognize sometimes the hard work that goes into it and years of that prep. Sometimes it gets taken for granted, looking on how you evolved. So, it's been a long journey. It's a lot of fun, and, obviously happy to have you over at Barattini too, working with you. And, it's been a nice journey too, getting to know, the art of DJing and obviously just a passion for music in general.
It's a beautiful craft what you do with the DJing, like even on the MC aspect. Like, I remember it was my first gig. I was working with Chris. You pulled up. I was like, what's up? How you doing? Meeting, for the first time. And you just rocked it. I'm like, this is what you guys do.
Yeah. It gets taken back sometimes because I think even this past year I did over 100 weddings, 100 parties, and you don't realize it when you put the pieces together after all of it. You're like, yeah, it's a journey. It becomes so second nature for me at this point. But sometimes just take a step back. You're like, oh man, it's a lot of fun. It's a great job. It's a great career, and I'm super blessed to be able to do and be a part of it.
100%. In the beginning, through the tunnel, you begin in the quiet storm. And where did you grow up, and what was your everyday life like before all of this?
Yeah. So I'm born and raised Long Island. I grew up in Miller Place on the North Shore. It's interesting because I came from a very blessed household. My parents are really incredible people. I got, two sisters and a brother. I'm the youngest of four, so I kind of was the spoiled one in the house, which was nice. But kind of a big thing that always stuck out through me as far as, how I was raised is kind of probably led to even my path as a musician or a DJ, I should say, was my parents kind of had two rules growing up. And it was you got to learn how to swim, because my father grew up in Brooklyn and didn't know how to swim. And then you got to learn an instrument. And my grandfather was a pianist, did it full time, kind of ironically full circled, was a part of a wedding band and taught piano. And then my other grandfather was a violinist or a fiddle. He actually early on would do, before they had, vocals in movies, he would play in the bands for silent films. So that was kind of like the two rules my parents always had was, got to learn a sport, learn how to swim, and, learn music and learn an instrument. So early on, music was always in my house. All my brothers and sisters learned piano. I learned the guitar, a little bit of piano. And there was always music on in the house, which I think was a big inspiration as far as leading to me where I am,
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Music is like one of those things, like, it's just ingrained in the DNA for like people in general, but like for you per se, it's like you was born blood in, like, everything music related,
Yeah. It was like, wasn't well-known mainstream artists that everybody would know, but it's something you kind of take on your journey there, where everything kind of bleeds into another to say that, you know, it's just a heavy influence, you know. And then, you know, a lot, like, we'll probably get to it too, talking about some of the tracks that had an inspiration in your life and stuff. Is just, it was a wide variety of an eclectic mix from brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, friends. There's always constantly embedded music around, always something playing in the home. You know, Saturday morning, mom's cleaning and there's Carpenters on and Carole King or James Taylor, Motown, Stevie Wonder. I mean, just embedded of all different walks of music, and it was really special. Yeah, it was really cool. Some of the stuff that really stands out to you, you know, on your journey.
That's beautiful. Well said as well. And before DJing and events became part of your life, what did you think your future was going to look like? Truly.
That's a good question. I mean, I was always I'm still very outgoing. I think I've been more of an introvert the older I get, just because, you know, you learn and you're more of a quiet observer and kind of soaking things in. But as a kid, I was always very energetic, especially at home. Always very energetic, very outgoing. So I always thought, you know, my life would kind of lead to this space of, you know, performer, broadcaster, kind of along those lines. And it was kind of a natural mode that even led me into DJing, where I was the theater kid, definitely was outgoing and a social kind of butterfly in a way. And what ended up leading me even into DJing was just a friend of mine was like, just like, you know, kind of in the beginning, just roadieing and looked at me and was like, hey, you know, like, you have a great personality, you're well spoken, you know, I think you'd be a great MC. And that's what originally kind of sparked it, was just a nuance of a friend was like, hey, you know, I think you'd be great, can make some money on the weekends. And that's what really sparked it, was just somebody else kind of seeing something in me that maybe I didn't see at the time, which is ironic too, because a lot of those things in life happen where, you know, you don't realize a deeper seed's being planted until you embark on that path. And, you know, I feel like now, even in as I get older, I should say, I've been kind of keen to that, where it's like, because one thing I always kind of like to stick with is anything that, you know, that movie with Jim Carrey, Yes Man? You ever seen that movie? Mm-hmm. It's little moments in your day-to-day and in your life where somebody's looking at you to say, hey, you know, why don't you try this? Or why don't you check this out? Or why don't you call this person? And sometimes naturally you have, you know, that weight on your shoulder of like, I don't know, I don't want to do that, or I'm not really feeling that right now. But when you start listening to those callings in your day-to-day and just kind of being the yes man, sure, I'll do it. Like you're very passionate, right? Like you're very motivated and inspired. You had a time in your life where you're like, everything's brand new to you. You feel that. It's like, only thing I could say is that, like, just say yes, man. Say yes. And then you're going to come across some of those things throughout your life where you're like, probably shouldn't have said yes to that. Maybe didn't want to be a part of that. Maybe shouldn't have done that. But that's all the learning process about things, you know? And so it was an early spark on that led me into DJing, was really that. Somebody else kind of seeing my personality, seeing how I react, seeing how I am with people, and maybe noticing something in me that I didn't see at the time. And then I personally found such a passion for it and just ran with it.
Bro, I can't agree 100% more, like, with the yes theory. Like, as like starting off with you guys with Barattini, I was like, yeah, why not?
Yeah,
let's do it. Like, literally, like, every time, like, and it's just a new experience every place I go, every venue, meeting new people. Like, I never realized the magic that's put on those people's face when they walk for the wedding. Like, I never realized that.
Yeah, you find yourself, you know, creating memories, and it's a different style too. It's particularly pertaining even over at Barattini and doing weddings now. Is, you know, this is something people are booking a year and a half, almost 2 years in advance, and you know, it's like, it's kind of just as a kid, right? Like, you know, every little girl's always looked up for the day they want to be the princess, and you know, same with the guys, where you look at the perspective of like, what were those pinnacle moments in your life, and you don't think of it when you're in it, and then you get in it and you're starting to create those moments, and you're the reason that these moments are happening. It's really special. It's really the biggest reason why it keeps me doing it is, you know, as much as I do have a passion for the art of DJing, and I do obviously love music, but it's those moments when you're looking out on the floor for the first dance, and everybody around them and their friends and family and their loved ones are there, and they're all in the same room, and you're kind of creating these moments. super special, man. It's something you can't really draw up on paper. And it's also hard to get people to envision that and put trust in you that you are going to envision that for them while this whole planning process is happening. And then all of a sudden it's like you got one night, right? It's just like putting on a production, like, right? You got one night to make it happen. You got one night to make everything come through, and you don't get a second shot, you know? And so to repeat it week in and week out and still do it with that smile on your face and be happy to be there, and then find the nuances of putting your own personal stuff aside, right? Like everybody's going through their own stuff. It's just like your job, right? You know, you go to work, your boss doesn't want to hear about your day to day, but you may be wearing something on your shoulder that day that you really don't want to be there. You don't want to put the effort in. And what's interesting about, this job in particular is like you don't have a choice, man. Like you got to leave that stuff at home. And then there's those nuances about an hour into the event, half hour into the event, you get the smile from Aunt Lucy. You see the old man two-stepping, and you're like, yeah, man, this is why I'm here, And for me, too, it's been great, too, because as much as I love being outgoing and communicating with people and talking to people, what really captivated me about DJing in particular was that I'm able to move all these people without saying a word to them. I can navigate movement and flow of energy throughout an evening, and I don't say a word to them. It's all through music. It's all through, like, I want to pick your brain. I want to dig deep. I want to get to your soul, and that to me is kind of special. That's always been like even the challenge for me as a DJ. It's like anybody can play good records, but like for me, it's always been like I want to try and find the record that you were playing on the way to school. When you were in 7th grade and you had your iPod and your MP3 player, what was the record you used to put on? What was the record that you used to have on loop when it got released? And that's always been like kind of the challenge for me. It's like once I hear like a woo, I drop a certain song, I hear a woo, it's like, okay, now I have in my head 15, 20, 30 other records I could go to that maybe I could get that same reaction. And, rather than kind of sticking to the script of, we got wedding sets and this is what everybody wants to hear, So it's fun, it's playful, it's artsy in that way.
Yeah, it's like you guys tap into the psychology of music.
Yeah.
Like it's so crazy. Like I witness it all the time. I was like, yo, y'all play that and match it with that, and they go like, whoa.
Yeah. Yep.
But as you said a little bit earlier with a song, James Taylor, we're gonna start it off with October Road.
Cool.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Through the Tunnel podcast. I am Aaron Jones, and I'm here with one of the dopest, the illest from Barattini, J Remi. Again, how you doing today, bro?
Living the dream, bro.
Yes, indeed. And throughout throughout your journey, you're gonna go through some of the dark points throughout that tunnel. Mm-hmm. And when did the results, when they weren't immediate, like when the progress didn't it felt slow, what kept you going?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think a lot of times, what is it's ironic your podcast, man. I think because for me, even to fall back as far as something that was passion, but it always is kind of been music to find the motivation behind it, keep you at peace. Kind of feed your soul to a new era of motivation or whatever's kind of next on the horizon. Because sometimes, most of the time, too, it's not easy. I mean, we all know, right? Like, life sucks. And you can't really compare it to other people's trials and tribulations either. You have to kind of feel it and do it for yourself. And so some of those things, like, I think most of the things that kept me level-headed and kept me going was always music. Kind of something to fall back on. It's always one of those like direct correlations to always look back at, or have influence from somebody else maybe going through the same thing, and you have a song or a bar or a line that speaks to you. And I think that's the biggest thing that really has always kept me going was always, finding some sort of inspiration in the darkest times. There's always kind of music.
Yeah, man. Like for me, for example, real quick, like my grandfather passed. Every time when I hear a Bill Withers song, it just hits.
Yeah.
Literally, like I'm like, dang, I miss my papa. Like every time.
Yeah, it's always that, like that James Taylor record that you just played. It was very prevalent. It's always something that kind of makes me think of my mom. You know, there are certain records and certain artists and certain people takes you back to that moment, and so I always think that that's what ends up becoming timeless. Is, you know, that you hear Bill Withers' record and right away you just taken back to that moment, that time in your life, and even if it is a reflection of maybe a darker time, because then you can look at where you are now and you go, wow,
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
inspired and I got through it, you know, because you're always going to get through it, right? Like you're always going to, you have to keep your head up. You got to, you know, nobody's going to do it for you either. You know, it's something that you always got to learn is, you know, as much as everybody's always going to be there to assist you in a helping hand and whatnot, at the same time, like you kind of got to put your shoes on and go to work. You got to put your shoes on and go outside and get something to eat. You have to do it for yourself. And, you know, you have to find the nuances of what works for you, because a lot of times it can be dark out there, man, for sure.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And as you said with the working, as you started working weddings, gigs, and just like building the trust with the clients and like the people that you work hand in hand with, what are like some habits or like systems that help you sharpen your tools and your skills?
That's a great question. I think most of the time for me was a lot of it learning it, all of it on your own. Like you have to kind of throw yourself into the fire. I think a lot of times early on, I just came from an era specifically pertaining to even DJing in my work environment where I had such an incredible group of people who was really inspiring and very talented. I really do look back on it now and I'm like, I'm spoiled for the people that taught me how to do this. Very, very well rounded people, hardworking, motivated people. So I think having a really strong network of people that you can lean on, because as much as, yep, you got to do it on your own, your network is everything, man. And it's very similar to your friends. It's very similar to the lifestyle you grew up in. You know, something, you know, your parents and people around you will always preach, like surround yourself with people who are like-minded, who have the right, you know, mindsets as you, as the, you know, the right goals in mind. And I was very blessed to have a significant portion of DJs and MCs and business owners, and some maybe not so much. And that's okay too, because I always found in the ones that I didn't necessarily agree with the way that they ran their business or agree with their, even their nuances of their day-to-day life. You learn from that too, right? Like you're always going to look back and be like, okay, cool. Like I'm not going to do that. Like don't do that. But, oh, this guy over here puts it into a new perspective for me where a little bit of motivation. I have somebody as far as like a core group of guys and people that I can always lean on, like finding a core group of mentors that are like-minded with goal sets that align with yours, you know, and all that is going to do is help inspire you even more. So that's the one thing I would always say that kind of got me through it and also helped me in my journey as far as where I am today is holding myself accountable, but also realizing you have a team, you have people out there aside from your friends and family too that you're not even thinking about who are rooting for you. And they want you to do well and they want you to succeed. And when you are down and when you do find yourself in a rut, you know, try and lean on those people to kind of get you out of it and maybe inspire you or maybe take it to a new perspective for you or a new vision, new journey, new road, new path, you know. But I think having a really strong clique of people around you that you can lean on and support is always kind of core for me.
I love how you said that because like the key word was self accountability. That is one of the most important things because it also brings up the idea of self awareness. So what are like some like you have to look at yourself in the mirror to evolve as a human being or an individual. What are like your strengths and weaknesses that you had to face back then, even till today, that you're still like I guess changing for the better and things that you're working on, like to become a better person, become a better man.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I think early on you always lean towards your talents, right? You're always fixated on the things that what you love, what you're passionate about, and then the things that you can give to the world. And a lot of times, I think just naturally growing as an individual, you're always going to look at the things that you're going to, you know, like you're saying in a way, is learning yourself. And so knowing that, you know, my strengths and weaknesses, for instance, you know, I'm a good communicator, I'm outgoing, I know how to, you know, obviously, you know, public speaking, all that stuff, beneficial kind of aspects of some of my stronger talents. And then recognizing the weaknesses, you know, like I'm not an office guy. Like I hate being stuck behind the desk all day. I hate emails. I hate all of that stuff. But knowing the things that you're not so strong about or not so well versed about, sometimes I find that people just disregard it. Like you always have that passive way about it. Like, I'm not good at that. Like, I'm not doing that. Just because you're not good at something, or you may have a weakness in yourself about approach to certain things, doesn't mean you can't work on that, you know? So I think for me, it was always like, understand the things that you're good at, know where you fit in the room, you know what your role is. But that doesn't mean I can't get better at being more responsive as a business owner or as a sales guy, or, devoting the time to make sure I hit those emails and communicate a little bit more with people I'm maybe not having those conversations with. And all that does is kind of take time. So the one thing I would always say is that, like, learn your strengths, embrace them, make sure you're always getting better, but your weaknesses is the most important, because nobody wants to be uncomfortable, right? You know, you always want to get yourself into a position where you're like, everybody wants what they like. They want to do the things they want to do. But it's the moments of uncomfortability and the moments where, you're not comfortable. That's where you're really going to grow, and that's where, God or the universe or life's going to show you a path that you're like, oh, wow, I didn't even think I could be here right now. So,
bro, truly, like I had that over the summertime with the pants situation.
What was the pants situation?
They didn't tell you about the pants situation?
No.
So what happened was, I had myself dry clean and I switched it over to my suit bag. My pants fell out and I didn't realize it. We get to Eisenhower Park, right? I'm checking my bag. I'm like, oh, shoot, where's my pants? And JC was the MC of the night and he was really close with the couple. I walk in there, I was like, I don't have my pants. He looked at me like, what did you just say? So it's like I had to sit in the truck for the entire night. Like, I was beating myself up for the first 2 hours, but then it's like backup for a backup. So you can always stay ready and prepared.
Yeah. Now bro, that's going to be a memory in this work environment in particular that you're never going to forget, right? Yeah, I had a similar thing happen, kind of touch base on that too, is I used to do a lot of work in the city. Before I was with Barattini, I did a lot of corporate gigs, and I would work. We do all the yachts that would go around the city. I would do all the private parties and stuff that would go out of Brooklyn and Jersey City and Hoboken and stuff. And it's like a hot summer day, and on these yachts they would have like a different floor would be a different thing. So the top floor would be like ceremony, middle floor would be cocktail, and the bottom floor would be reception. And I used to do these by myself. So I'm trekking all of this gear on a hand truck down these long docks, loading them all up on the gig. It's a hot summer day in August. Now we go upstairs for the ceremony, and the only power in the boat was basically like right next to the altar. And so I'm sitting there waiting for the ceremony to start. And sure enough, like, everybody's sweating. We're in the beating sun. We're right on the East River. And I bend over to go hit the volume knob on the speaker, and my pants rip from the top of my ass all the way down to my ankles.
What?
And it was the same thing, man. Very similar situation. Not just forgetting the pants. I am in next to the altar while the ceremony is going on, and everybody is staring at me. And this two couples right next to me heard it. So nobody saw me rip my pants, but they heard it. And I'm like bare butt, basically, in my boxer shorts on the top deck of a yacht on the East River. And so, yeah, little memories and nuances like that. But to that, ever since that day, you bet your butt, man, I always have a backup on backup on backup.
Yeah. I told Frankie, I'm like, I can't believe that happened. I'm like, man, I got everything packed 2 nights prior.
Yep.
Yeah, so as we get into the next song break, actually, quickly, when I tell you he has one of the most versatile tastes in music, I started listening to the songs that he sent me last night. I'm like, whoa, it's totally different compared to the stuff that you DJ, but still is dope.
Yeah, nothing like a DJ. If anything, like, before I even really got into turntablism and the art of DJing, I was very much, I was a music head, so I love playing guitar. I love every aspect of it, but my influences was probably way far from all the stuff. I don't even really get to spin the stuff I really listen to. I think my listening music is totally different than, the stuff I perform. by far.
Yeah. So this next song is by the Marshall Tucker Band called Can't See You. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Through the Tunnel podcast. And when you're in that tunnel, you're always going to face one of those moments. It could be a sad, happy, good, bad, or even the ugly. But that moment can turn your entire life around to go further into that light. And I would like to get into this real quickly. What was one of those moments of pressure, expectations, responsibility, or even self-doubt that like hit you to make it's like a question yourself? Like, should I continue going, or is like I'm doing what I have to do? What was one of those moments for you?
I don't actually know if it was a specific moment. I would imagine if I thought about it a little bit more, I could probably give you a more direct example. But I think kind of tying to what we were talking about earlier, specifically pertaining to like what I'm doing now with DJing and events, is I only have this one night and these next 4 or 5 hours to make something happen. So the expectations of, you know, kind of the things we even spoke about, like you forget a chord or you forget your shoes, or you forget the nuances of a backup speaker or something along those lines. No matter what in this element, it's kind of like the show has to go on. So it kind of is very much a metaphoric reason to even your life, right? Like where I can't think about me right now. I have to perform. I have to put on this party. I have to create memories. I have to give my best to make sure these people have a night that's unforgettable. So I have to put past all the logistics of maybe the equipment's messing up, maybe somebody was late, maybe somebody bailed out of a date, or my own personal stuff of, you know, broke up with a girl or going through this with a friend or having something happen with a family member. So it necessarily for me, like to find the light was always just like, I'm forced to push through it in my job, right? You know, I can't, nobody wants to hear the woe is me. I can look a bride in the eyes and, you know, give her a sob story of all of these excuses, right? But at the end of the day, she don't care. You know, she's been thinking about this day since she was 10 years old. Like, and I have to execute. So I think seeing the light at the end of the tunnel was like always kind of a direct correlation of even a night of performing where it's like the show's got to go on. You know, if the mic doesn't work, or, you know, you're not feeling it that night, or you're going through the flu, or you got to throw up, or whatever, it doesn't matter. I need you there. So the interesting thing about this job too is I'm taking my dates and booking my events a year and a half, 2 years in advance, right? So there's no sick days. Yeah, I think I can maybe count on my hands. I'm started in August of 2005, or I think 2006. So I'm looking at like 19, 20 years of doing this. I think I could count on my hands how many days that I had to pull out for being sick even.
Wow.
You know, so it's like there's just no sick days, right? You know, so I'm already having to be so selfless coming to my job that I'm forced to go through it all. So that's always been a great metaphor for my life too, where it's like, just think of it as a gig. Like this is temporary, but you got to pull through it and you'll find yourself come out on the other side better than you were when you went in.
That's beautiful, man. That honestly, that's really beautiful. And looking back now, what is like one or like some of the things that like kept you moving forward when like things got heavy or possibly uncertain?
I guess kind of circle back around to, you know, what we mentioned earlier was a good circle of people, and finding the little things. You know, I think everybody looks at the big picture every day. You know, you're thinking about the house, the car, the vacation. You're thinking about when this is all over, I'm going to do this. And, you know, for me, it was always, my dad was always big on that too, preaching that, where it's like, it's about the little things. So to have that direct correlation was always finding the nuances of that, you know, your day to days, what's going to make you happy in a weird way in that moment. Is it a specific song on the way to work? Is it stopping for the coffee that you don't want to spend $7 on? You know, is it maybe, you know, making a meal for yourself? Is it a movie at the end of the night you're looking forward to? Is it a video game? Is it something to relieve stress? Because, you know, I think a big part of it too is that in a job where I have to be so on and you have to be so, you know, your communication with people and you just have to be on. Like I constantly always have to turn it on, right? You do have to find that time where you're like, nah, man, I'm going to be a little selfish here. I'm going to go on vacation, you know, or I think I have to take this weekend for myself and reset my mind. find it in the little things. Go to the beach, go play around a golf, little nuances of the day to day is always what's kind of pulls me through, at least.
Honestly, bro, that's a gem, like truly, because like I noticed that honestly over the past 6 months, like the little things, like going to a basketball event or a wrestling event for me, like it really helps you rejuvenate your body to keep on pushing through the next 6 months or whatever. Like it's I'm not gonna lie, I'm having like one of those moments like wow, like I didn't realize I was learning that until you like truly said that, like for real.
Yeah, because it's just the things like you can control, right? Like so, a lot of the things of the extreme goals and passions you're looking at, you're like, I want to get here, I want to get the big house, I want to get that, I want to move to Miami, whatever your goals are, but it's not gonna happen overnight, and then you kind of just take it for granted where you're like, nah, like I can only control the things I control right now, I can only control this conversation right now. Like, I'm here right now. I can't be thinking about what I'm doing 3 hours from now or the next 6 months. So this is what we're gonna do right now. Right now, this is what's gonna make me feel good. Or this is what's gonna get me through. Control the things you can control. That's
Yes.
always been my thing.
And as you're like seeing the light today as DJ, MC, and like literally one of the major parts of the company, Barattini, how do you personally define where you are in life now compared to where you started?
I think there's still a long way to go. I think looking back on a lot of the journey was I never expected to be here. I think that's what's a little ironic. You probably ask most people about that in life, and they look back on their journey. Things just always work. It works out for the best. You probably see that in your relationships too, right? You see that in the people you have in your life, or whether it was a girl or a wife or somebody where, maybe you did break up or something and you look back at the relationship, you're like, oh yeah, the signs were kind of there all along, but I didn't really listen to them. I think looking back on it now with my journey, it was like starting to listen to those things, starting to listen to the nuances of everything, whether it's God or the universe kind of speaking to you in a weird way where it's leading you in a direction that you really never thought you'd be. And then years, months down the road, you look back and you're like, oh, wow, like it was all kind of for a reason. It all kind of made sense. This is dope. It's cool.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And what? Because like everybody's in that journey trying to chase that passion or chase that dream or chase that ultimate goal. And what is some advice that you could give to them?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I'm still learning and figuring out myself. I can tell you what works for me is, a little bit of all that, leaning on people, having a support system, and finding the day-to-day inspirations in the nuances of your life. And don't expect the results to be what you want either. Like, that's okay, I think a lot of it, whether you want to call it faith or not, whether you have a belief in God or not, I think regardless of any of that nature, you're sitting there being like, you kind of do have to have faith. You have to have trust that, like, if I do the right thing by my friends, do the right thing by my business and my family and the people around me, all that's going to transpire down the road is obviously, hopefully, success and prosperity.
Thank you. Thank you for the advice. And all the listeners out there, please take that, because when I tell you this man is high value, high favorite, in my opinion, most definitely. For
Thank
real.
you, man.
Truly,
Thank you.
man. Like, I'm not even joking. I'm being so serious. Because, like, when I started working with you guys, I was, like, a little off, like, because, like, I never knew any of this stuff. And, like, when you guys brought me apart, it felt like y'all took me under the wings as a little brother. Like, I felt that. And, like, every time when I work with everybody, I'm like, yo, they like my big brothers.
Yeah. And it should be that way, right? It should be that way in any endeavor that you're going into, especially when you're going into something brand new that you're not, familiar with, because it can be overwhelming, anything new in life, but like kind of like, what we chatted earlier about was that, in those moments of uncomfortability, you're going to grow, you're going to learn, you're going to do better. And it's even better when the people that you surround yourself with want you to do that, and they want to see you succeed as well. you know, that it's a great feeling. It's a great feeling looking back on it, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. You know, I'm alone in this, but I'm not. You know, I do have people looking out for me, and you know, I think that is like the real core when I look at like even very successful people, like they want to give you the secrets. They want to. Nobody is sitting there in the ivory tower, you know, selfishly being like, I want this all for myself. Because then that term, like, is lonely at the top, becomes very lonely, right? I've always found that people who genuinely were successful and are very successful want to divulge those secrets. So it's like, if you could just always be a fly on the wall, humble yourself to say like, somebody can teach me something better. Somebody can teach me something new. Somebody can teach me a different approach to things. And then being okay with observing, right? Observing those things, observe those qualities, observing, keeping an eye open, and always having an open mind. You know, for me, it was always have an open mind about everything. And even some stuff that may be negative, again, like I said before, is like looking at even the negative stuff is also a way for you to be like, yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be involved with that. I don't want to surround myself with those kind of people. That's okay, but like you got to be selfish about that. Because all it's going to do is kind of help you grow as well.
Thank you. And before we wrap up and head into the last song, I just want to give you a special shout out and just thank you for coming on, truly.
Yeah, man.
Because like, again, this is Through the Tunnel podcast, and through that tunnel, you're going to hit bumps. You're going to hit a moment in your life. You're like, is this really what it is? Or it's like, wow, I'm really towards seeing the light towards the end of the tunnel. And every time when I work with you or just anybody in general with the company, Barattini, it's like, it's beautiful. Like, you guys make me feel like I'm a man, per se. Mm-hmm. Truly.
Cool,
like,
man.
slapping me on the back, yo, good job, Barry. I'm like, what? Because I'm not used to that. So it's like, I truly appreciate it every time. And again, this is J Rem from Barattini Productions, one of the key cornerstones for the company, doing literally everything, the whole nine.
Thank you, man.
Truly. So
thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you for thinking of me. I will hopefully one day I'll be back, man. Would love it.
Oh, most definitely. So this last song, because he sent me a dope collection of music, and I'm like, yo, this is sick.
I want to see which one you put for the last one.
We're just going to ride out on something different. I'm not even going to say what it is. We're just going to ride out.